For my intertext assignment, I'm going to be performing two texts, one by John Lennon, the song Imagine, and the second, a commentary about that song from a popular spokesman for the conservative political party named Ben Shapiro. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. What he just said is the most immoral thing you could possibly say. This is the most selfish morality possible, okay? If everybody lived for today, they would screw everything in sight and kill all their enemies. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Religion is the cause of all the world's ills? Right. Communism and atheism murdered 100 million people in the century that he was writing this. They were busy murdering people in China right as he was writing this garbage. There's nothing worth killing or dying for, really. How about the torture of children? How about the murder of 100 million people? Is that worth dying for? Let's read one more stanza of this before I hurl myself out of a window. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing the world. This is such a childish philosophy. This really is something you would hear from a third grader, but leftists think it's so deep. They think the stuff that 7-year-olds say is just the depth of what humankind is, and it really is evil. You should not take your moral advice from small children. Life isn't fair and people do bad things. As soon as you acknowledge these two things, none of this makes any sense. So that's my intertext performance. Some of the performance choices revolve around me reading John Lennon's lyrics as, kind of a poem, like a spoken word, as opposed to a song or like how you would read a traditional text, like in a book or something. Um, I really tried to make clear the different ways that these two people interpreted the meaning of this text. One, John Lennon really, I think it's pretty obvious in his lyrics and in his delivery of the original song that he tried to make a song about peace, about living in a world with unity where everybody is together and they're not fighting over this or that or the other. There's no wars caused by religion or greed or hunger or anything like that. It's just like an ideal world, is what he's trying to picture. And Ben Shapiro, on the other hand, sees this message as evil somehow. He interprets this message as being selfish and just caring about yourself and nobody else, and stupid. He thinks that this is a stupid thing to even think about, and that John Lennon is somehow trapped in an adolescent bliss of negligence and just refusing to acknowledge the world in its current state of evil. But the thing is, this song is called Imagine because he's trying to imagine a better place. He's not saying that the world is a better place. It's just He's imagining it. And for Ben Shapiro, I really tried to portray someone who is pissed off and aggravated that someone had the guts to write some evil song like this. It's clear that he has nothing good to say about these lyrics, despite their peaceful nature and its intention. And I tried to kind of portray someone who is willfully upset, someone who seems to go out of their way to nitpick at things to get their message across. And he's a conservative and is very, very for, like, conservative ideals like free market and that kind of stuff. And there's parts of this song that talk about property and other things that go against those ideas. And that's what really pisses him off about it. And I try to get into the mindset of someone and understand where he comes from as a conservative and why these things might upset him. And I tried to get into that state of mind and understand what it's like to be, I mean, I tried to portray like a grumpy old man almost that's out of tune with the times of the music, which is far too common. And he tried to turn this into a political thing. And so I also tried to take the parts of his commentary that best encompassed the message of his whole entire commentary, which was a very political one of him basically saying, communism is evil. This guy seems to support communism. Therefore, what he writes is evil. Other than that, I just tried to make two distinct, not voices, but two distinct tones, like I said. One of peace and then one of anger and a feeling of unjust. So, in this conversation that I've created through intertexting these two um, texts, I guess, um, I've learned, and I think people that listen to this conversation can learn the differences in opinion that are associated with political beliefs and how political beliefs oftentimes fuel your worldview, such is the case with Ben Shapiro. He is clearly concerned primarily with his political view and how everything else can either relate and encourage those views or go against those views, such as the case with John Lennon. He seems to fear this idea that the world can survive without religion and can survive without um, property and property rights, because that goes against his deep seated belief in conservative values, especially property rights and the ability of religion to be good for the world. And the fight against communism, which John Lennon is seems to be hinting at, or at least going towards with the lyrics of this song. I think that there's a lot to be learned from a dialogue between two different people, but the thing is, you have to be open enough to learn from that dialogue. And in another part of Ben Shapiro's speech in response to the song, he says something along the lines of, if you know anybody that likes this song and agrees with any of these messages, you shouldn't talk to them. They're evil and you have no business talking to someone evil like that. And there's nothing good that can come out of that conversation. And I think, and part of my point of doing this specifically, I think that that is pretty sad. Obviously, it's closed minded. And I think that the only way to learn about the world and to find truth is to have constructive conversations with two people with differing views, especially in our country right now that is so divided. It's important to open your eyes and your ears to people who think differently than you, and remember that a lot of times these are just opinions. They're not facts. They're not backed by science. It's just one person thinks a certain way and another person thinks in a completely different way. And neither person is necessarily right or wrong. It's just differing point of view, and it's important to learn and empathize with those people who think differently than you.